Now, how does it compare to ashwagandha? Well, ashwagandha also lowers cortisol levels, but you'll see that ThymoQuin outperformed it in ashwagandha extract. These are best case scenarios. There are other studies with ashwagandha that didn't show it had this degree of benefit, but the study that I looked at, it decreased cortisol levels by 33%. It works by modulating the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. With ThymoQuin, the idea is that it's working on the gut immune axis to lower cortisol levels, as well as improving the microbiome. So it has a different mechanism of action. The two might work very well together. So that's possible too. Okay, so let's summarize what I've covered. Our ability to handle stress is based on an interaction of many factors, and that's the key thing that I wanted to get across today. It's not enough to do a one thing. One thing may be the key, but you continuously have to be aware of stress in your life and take steps to reduce the effects that stress have in your life, on your life. So that's the key point. Sleep quality is directly related to our ability to handle stress. You have to make sleep a top priority. I know I'm laughing because it sounds so self-evident, but knowing something and doing it are two different things. I mean, we've all heard you should drink 8 glasses of water a day, right? How many people come close to that? And we all know that getting a good night's sleep is vital for us to function at our best. So make sleep quality a high priority. Nutritional status plays a big role in stress management. A high potency multiple vitamin and mineral formula, that's your insurance formula, but it's part of an overall dietary approach. You know, it starts with diet as far as the supplements go, high potency multiple. Make sure you use those active forms of B12 and folic acid. Take extra magnesium. Get those omega-3 fatty acids, extra vitamin D3, and some sort of plant-based antioxidant like grapeseed extract, 150 to 300 milligrams per day. In terms of improving our stress response, GABA is another nutritional component that you can use, very helpful in acute stress, maybe taking a test or getting on a plane or whatever. Then we can use botanical adaptogens to help improve our ability to handle stress and lower cortisol levels. I hope you've enjoyed this. I want to end by just saying a few things from my heart. I've learned a lot in my life. I've studied health since I was 19 years old. I'll be 67 next month. That's a long time to research, study, and live with a certain focus. And I noticed something many years ago. I started looking at people that were older, whom I respected, and who were happy and successful in life. Maybe not financially, if that's how you judge success, but in terms of the quality of their life and the impact they have on the people around them. And although these people had different personalities, what I noticed is they shared a common feature. They were quick to give thanks and show appreciation. And they were grateful and lived in a state of grace. We now know that there's a large body of scientific work that shows that people who are more grateful have higher levels of well-being, they're happier, they're less depressed, or less stressed, and they're more satisfied with their lives and social relationships. So you have to find ways of expressing and feeling more gratitude in your life. And as I said, I'm giving this gift to people called Thrive, and that's one of my key lessons. 21-day blueprint to high level wellness. Each day will consist of a lesson. I just touched on some things today that you hopefully will find useful. If you really want to do a deep dive in learning my thoughts on how to live a life truly worth living, please, there's no fee for my program. When you get older, you start thinking about legacy and what's important that you have lived a life. And I put this program together for everyone, but especially for the people that I love and want to remember the important things that I've learned in my life. So I hope you sign up for the program, and I look forward to answering any questions that you have today. And also, I'll be appearing on the panel discussion in a few days as well. So with that, Michael, I'll welcome you back.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor. I appreciate all that information that you shared. So with that, we will go ahead and begin our Q&A. But before we do, if you can just tell us how people can get in touch with you and where they can get your books.
Yeah, the best place is just to go to drmurray.com, DOCTORMURRAY, drmurray.com. Get on my newsletter, sign up for Thrive, be a part of my community, and I would love to have an influence on your life.
Right. Thank you. So, given your strong advocacy for diet and lifestyle modifications, what specific dietary recommendations would you prioritize for individuals seeking to naturally manage elevated cortisol levels due to stress?
They got to stay away from sugar.
Okay.
They've got to stabilize blood sugar levels, and we know a lot goes into that, but the key dietary recommendation is staying away from refined sugars, anything that's going to quickly raise your blood sugar level. And then when you do eat carbohydrates, if they're healthy carbohydrates, such as fruit or vegetables in particular, you need to keep your portion size under control. And that's so having a working knowledge of what's called the glycemic load is really important. Which is a combination of a food's glycemic index as well as the amount of carbohydrate in that food. Sometimes foods might have a very low glycemic index, but if you're eating a whole bowl of them, you're gonna raise your blood sugar levels. So so just kind of having a working knowledge of that glycemic load.
Now, what's the difference between glycemic index and glucose level?
Your glucose level is a level of glucose in your blood, and the glycemic index is the impact that a certain portion of food equal to 100 grams of sugar will have on your blood sugar level.
Okay. And does it have anything to do with the speed at which it goes into your bloodstream, or is that independent of that?
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's going to look at your glycemic index is based upon the highest point. Usually it's measured in the first hour.
Great. Thank you. And you've spoken about the importance of attitude adjustment, if you will. What evidence suggests that practices like mindfulness or gratitude can directly impact the HPA axis and cortisol secretion in response to stress?
Tons of research with various forms of meditation, especially. Anytime there's diaphragmatic breathing and promoting that parasympathetic response, it has a dampening effect on cortisol levels. So it's very very helpful. And as far as mindfulness goes, that's more of a practice that I think of as just being in a more relaxed parasympathetic state. And I think that leads to making better choices and avoiding triggers that raise cortisol. So I look at that. I look at mindfulness as being more of a proactive, preventive measure than a kind of a corrective measure. But yeah, it's important.
Thank you. So, drawing from your experience, your extensive research on dietary supplements, which specific natural products have you demonstrated the most compelling scientific evidence for their ability to modulate the body's stress response and regulate cortisol?
Yeah, that's a really good question because it gives me a chance to really share one of my philosophies because yeah, I've written a lot on the importance of dietary supplementation. And I've always tried to balance that by stressing that there's no supplement that can kind of compensate for a poor diet, not getting enough sleep, or an unhealthy lifestyle, or a negative attitude. So they're not magic pills. They work in our body as tools. But they are best used when they're part of a holistic approach and an overall philosophy of being good to yourself. It's I think one of the things that I think is my philosophy is one of the reasons I think we're here is to learn how to love. And it's kind of like on an airplane, we have to put the mask on ourselves when that oxygen mask comes down. And so that we have to really learn the more we learn about ourselves and how to love ourselves, the more love we have to give to others. And I think that showing respect and honor to your body and your mind and your brain and your being, I think that's a sign of love. And I don't know if a lot of people view it like that. So yeah, maybe I'm an extremist because I avoid things that I know uh, are not good for my body. And that includes, trying to avoid negative thoughts and feelings as well, because those are killers. So
In your experience, do you find that when you're working with people, they tend to like go, "Oh, supplements, I'll take the supplements," as opposed, because they can just pop that in their mouth and swallow it, as opposed to doing the hard work of dietary change, having, good sleep hygiene,
yeah,
exercising, etc.
yeah, and it's been amazing. I'll tell you a quick story because I had a lot of patients. I got really good at helping people with depression, and uh, so people would come, I'm a naturopath, so they're coming in with this preconception that I was going to give them a magic herb. I must be giving magic herbs or something to make people happier, and yeah, sometimes I would give things, but one of the things that happens when people become depressed is they lose the ability to associate to the things that they enjoy in life. So some of my most meaningful prescriptions was finding out what they enjoyed in life and making that the first step is making sure that they enjoyed those activities, because sometimes the two are hand in hand. If you can help somebody improve their physiology and their brain chemistry, then they regain and I don't know if anyone else. There's a whole so the classic way they look at depression is that it's kind of a learned helplessness, and they found that that led to the discovery of a lot of these antidepressant drugs. So they would put various animals in a shuttle box and expose them to pain, and they'd learn to be helpless. And if they gave them a drug, they would unlearn that, and they would move away from the danger and pain. But they found that they could get the same changes in the brain of these rats, mice, or dogs if they physically carried them away from the danger. So um, I think that it doesn't, I think that, obviously we want to do both, right? But I think in our current model, we're focused way too much on the biochemistry and not enough on the things that I think are equally as important, which is the behavior and the psychological attitude and lifestyle. They did a study in people that were severely depressed. These were people that were intractable, meaning they had not responded to any conventional pharmacological treatment for their depression. They were incurably depressed, and they had a control group, and then they had an active treatment group. The active treatment group, the first assignment they were given turned out to be the most powerful. They had them write a letter to someone who impacted their life in a positive way, and that letter was to express their gratitude to that person. And what happened is that 6 months later, those people that responded to that first letter were first effort in learning gratitude. They were still their Hamilton depression scores were much better, and they were no longer clinically depressed. It was when I looked at that study, what my thought was is that it's not that they did it once. They did it once, and it led to something. It created a change within them. And that change is that when they discovered that it felt really good to say thank you and acknowledge people. And usually when you acknowledge somebody, they start acknowledging you. And that's a positive feedback. These people, they were depressed because they had all this negative feedback. All of a sudden, they did something that was profoundly positive. I mean, when you look up somebody that you maybe hadn't talked to for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and you tell them what a pivotal person they were in your life, and how much you appreciated them for whatever it was, that's memorable for the person expressing as it is the person experiencing the gratitude. And that leads to a connection and an exchange, and that leads to health, healing, love, and all that comes from it.
So you had mentioned that sleep aids such as Ambien were disruptive to the sleep architecture and really weren't. They were knocking people out, essentially, not really giving them good night's sleep. What's become very popular are the THC gummies and stuff like that. I don't think that was on your list. How do those types of
I took it off because I didn't want to cause too much controversy. But THC and CDB, they do not enhance sleep quality. And you talk to people that are heavy users. They don't dream. They don't achieve those deeper levels of sleep. It leads to more fatigue. It's a dead end. Maybe there better alternatives than the prescription, but in my opinion, not much.
Okay, so those are significantly disruptive. I've actually spoken to people who, after they stopped long-term usage of marijuana and THC, they said, "Wow, my dreams came back."
Yeah, it's interesting with 5-HTP. I started when I started using that in clinical practice. People would say, "Oh my God, I don't want to take it. I had a nightmare." And I said, "That's okay. Work. You're going to work through it. You're just your subconscious mind is waking up, and there may be some disruptive dreams, but stick with it because it's a good sign." So It's not that the agent caused bad dreams, it is that the agent increased that communication between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. It's good.
Right.
Dreams are good. Dreams are good.
So another thing in the sleep conversation that I didn't see on the list was caffeine. People obviously use it to stay awake, and I think most of our society is addicted to
Yep.
it.
Yep.
How productive is it to sleep?
Yeah, so it is a sleep disruptor. I think I had it on there, caffeine, alcohol,
Oh,
other drugs, but
okay.
I may not have had it on the slide. I thought I did, but um, it's really interesting about caffeine. Uh, so uh, it's one of my favorite subjects. In 2006, they did a study to try to explain why the research on caffeine and heart disease was so different depending upon the populations and the sources that were being studied. Some studies showed that caffeine intake increased high blood pressure, led to an increased risk for cardiovascular death, heart disease, and strokes. And other studies showed it had a protective effect. So the researchers asked the question, does this have anything to do with the way that people metabolize caffeine? So we know which genetic polymorphism is associated with rapid clearance of caffeine, and we know which is associated with a slow metabolism of caffeine. And when they started looking at what happens when these people that are fast metabolizers of caffeine drink 2 to 4 cups of coffee, and those that are slow metabolizers of caffeine that drink 2 to 4 cups of coffee, and the effect it has on heart disease, it was mind blowing, because what they found is that if you were a fast metabolizer and you drank 2 to 4 cups of coffee a day, you actually reduced your risk of having a heart attack or stroke by, I think it was 70%. But if you
Wow.
were a slow metabolizer and you drank 2 to 4 cups of coffee a day, you would increase your risk of having a heart attack or stroke by 280%. So you'd have a 4 times greater risk, than the person with it. Yeah, so it was pretty significant. And so I always get asked the question, well, how do you know if you're a slow metabolizer or fast metabolizer? And my answer is always the same. You know. I knew myself that I was a poor metabolizer of caffeine. If I had caffeine, it didn't matter if I had it in the morning. My sleep would be disrupted for 2 to 3 days. I was, based upon my genetics, I should never have caffeine or alcohol. I don't metabolize them well. So on the flip side, if someone is a fast metabolizer, these people, they can have a double shot of espresso and go right to sleep at night. And my answer to them, as long as I think that 2 to 4 servings per day is safe for those people and beneficial, very beneficial. But if you're a slow metabolizer, you should stay away from caffeine. If you notice that when you have caffeine that you get nervous, that your heart rate increases, or it interferes with your sleep, you're likely a poor metabolizer. You can do a test, you can do a genetic test to see, but it's not really necessary. People really know if they're slow metabolizers or fast metabolizers.
So you talked about DHA and EPA and recommended fish oil. What are your thoughts on plant-based sources?
Well, you can now get EPA and DHA from algae, but historically the algae sources have been predominantly DHA, and DHA is great for like intestinal inflammation, for Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and leaky gut and that sort of thing. But in terms of getting it into your brain, the research is quite clear in depression. DHA has virtually no effect on depression, while EPA has significant benefits in depression. And the explanation is that the DHA doesn't get in the brain, and there's a lot of support for that. So with algae sources, they still have to have the EPA. It's got to be EPA DHA. Should be at least a 1-to-1. As far as flaxseed oil and chia and walnuts, they're a source of of alpha linolenic acid, and that conversion is a little bit better in women. They've got that little extra chromosome. Most of that extra chromosome is designed to produce a healthier baby. And so they can convert a little bit better, but not very well. And we see if we look at EPA and DHA levels, the omega-3 index in vegans, even if they're eating a very high plant-based intake of omega-3 fatty acids, alpha linolenic acid, they are woefully deficient in those longer chain omega-3 fatty acids. They just don't convert. Anyone that's a vegan, I would recommend that they supplement with the algae EPA and DHA, and they may want to get an omega-3 index test. It's really vital, I think, for them to get their levels up, particularly if a woman's planning to get pregnant. There are challenges being a vegan and having healthy babies and making sure that you go through pregnancy healthy as well. In addition to these omega-3 fatty acids, iron is a major concern, so any vegan out there should get a serum ferritin level, particularly a woman, and in particular, if she's planning to get pregnant in the near future. It's very important to get that serum ferritin level above 60. Get it above 60 if you want the healthiest possible pregnancy. Get it above 60.
So with regard to environmental toxins, how might chronic exposure to these substances impact the body's ability to manage stress and regulate cortisol levels effectively? And are there natural detoxification strategies you recommend in this context?
Yeah, we know that I'll digress a little bit. We know that the load of environmental pollutants is a bigger factor in contributing to type 2 diabetes than sugar and diet. They did a study back in, again, this was 2006 was a good year. They looked at pesticide residues in the blood in the National Health and Nutrition Survey. And what they found is that if they divided people up by body weight and by the level of pesticides in their body, they found that if someone was thin and they had a high level of pesticide in their body, they were 30 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than somebody who was obese, morbidly obese, who had the lowest level of these pesticide residues in their body. And that showed that correlation was irrefutable. There was a direct relationship between body stores of pesticides and the development of type 2 diabetes. It was more significant than body weight. And this is completely against the conventional wisdom. The conventional wisdom is you gain weight, you could develop insulin resistance, and then you develop type 2 diabetes. But what this study showed was that you basically accumulate these pesticides, they lead to insulin resistance, and then you get diabetes. If the body weight wasn't the critical factor.
Do you know the name of the research?
Yeah, it was Ducky Lee. It was in it was 2006. I think it was it was a JAMA journal. I think it was the American Journal of Epidemiology. But there have been dozens of studies since then that have shown the same sort of correlation. It's just that nobody reports on that because it goes against conventional wisdom. It's, you know, we don't have a drug for that, so it doesn't get talked about. It gets talked about on the Real Truth About Health.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And it is that what you're referring to, that aspect of the of those toxins, is that the obesogens? Or is that
Yes.
something?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And what was interesting about this study, and again, this data was from the National Health and Nutrition Survey. It's gold standard research. And what was interesting, when they looked at any single pesticide, there was no link. But when they looked at the total, there was a significant link.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you kind of talk about this stuff not kind of being popularized. So obviously there's a bias in medical literature. And I believe in your work, you've talked about the bias in medical literature due to the pharmaceutical industry influence.
Yeah.
What resources or types of studies do you consider most reliable for unbiased information on the effectiveness of natural products for stress and cortisol?
Well, I think that whether something's biased or unbiased, there's a difference between that and the results, the study design and the results that are shown. So, you know, I don't think that just because a company might fund a study that makes the study biased, and you know, most studies that I've been affiliated with, when you fund a study, you sign off that, hey, you know, the results are the results, and they may not be good. So companies have to be pretty sure. So I would look, yeah, I think the key is not so much the funding source as being biased. I would say, you know, where was the study conducted? Was it conducted with some sort of internal review, and who actually did the study? There's a lot of research that's come out of on natural products, for example, that have come out of Iran, and most of those have been questioned because the researchers were biased, not in what they wanted to produce, but they were biased because they wanted to get paid, and so they sometimes made up studies, you know, and we can't have that. So I think more than anything, it's look, if people are wanting to know the credibility of a study, they have to look at the credibility of the researchers doing the study. That's the key factor. I think it's more of in terms of natural products, and because let's face it, if these companies don't have a commercial interest, they're not going to fund a study. You know, they don't have any. There's got to be a reward.
Why invest in a study if they're not getting a return, right?
Right.
So, in the context of aging and hormonal shifts, what are your thoughts on the use of bioidentical hormones in relation to the body's natural stress response?
My concern about bioidentical hormones is that they're age appropriate, and they're within normal range. You know, there were. I remember when all these women were lathering themselves in progesterone, and I would see progesterone levels that were 4,000 times normal. And there's no way that I would in my philosophy, consider that a healthy level. Same thing with testosterone in men. I think there's some benefits with using testosterone in aging men, but the levels should be age appropriate. I have colleagues when they have a man that has low testosterone at 60, they're gonna dose them up to the same testosterone level of someone that's in their teens. That's and I think that's stressful for. I think it's going to lead to imbalances and it's not the natural order of things. So I'm a big fan of bioidentical hormones used with some rationale, and not to use what are called super physiological doses, but use identical doses to what you would see in a particular target population.
And even bringing up the levels of testosterone in this example, to an age appropriate level, I would imagine that there are also other corresponding hormones in the body that kind of work synergistically, but yet you're only introducing one hormone. Is there anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything is connected. When you press one pedal, it's going to influence. We're a system. Our body is a beautiful, harmonious system. At least that's how it's designed to be. And disease is when something is out of that harmony. And yeah, so my philosophy is to always move towards that healthy state, and that obviously is going to mean that I want everything to be in the right level. And yeah, so that's just my philosophy. But there's other doctors. I have friends. They have a completely different philosophy, and I think my philosophy is really rational, but they just tell me, they have their own thoughts on it, and that's okay. I'm not gonna be upset that they don't agree with me, but I'm not going to change my mind because I think my thoughts are really rational.
I know the feeling. So
Yeah.
we have about 30 seconds left. Any final thoughts for the audience?
Your health is your first wealth. Invest in it. Make it a focus in your life, and not just in your body, but in every aspect of your life. Your relationships, in particular, they have to be as healthy as they possibly can. So, God bless you. Thank you for watching, and sign up for my Thrive program. I think you'll enjoy it.
All right, great. And just real quickly, you want to just give another shout out to where they can go and sign up?
Yeah, drmurray.com. It's on the front page, and click on it, and you'll get 5 minutes of video and a 5-minute read every day for 21 days. And my hope is it'll change your life.
Great. And thank you so much for all the information that you shared with us today. Really appreciate it. We could unmute the audience, please.
So we have everything works out nice.
Continued fallout from President Trump's Liberation Day.
Thank you.
Second day financial markets were free fall. Today